Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Scott Cundill. With his passion for making business referrals and his expertise in the CRM and marketing industry, Scott is a force to be reckoned with in the world of entrepreneurship and sales. As the co-founder and CEO of My Most Trusted Network, he's created a powerful Chrome plugin that connects business owners through warm referrals, leading to trusted introductions and lifelong advocates. With 25 years of experience under his belt, he's made not only a name for himself as a successful tech entrepreneur, but he's also a published author and a regular guest on TV. Through his captivating one-liners, Scott has the unique ability to distill your entire business into one powerful marketing message. So if you're looking to revolutionize your business connections, gain handpicked referrals, and say goodbye to spam and fake profiles, get ready. Scott's about to blow your mind. Buckle up and get ready for an insightful and inspiring conversation with one of the industry's leading visionaries. Scott, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so excited. Let's do this.
Awesome. So I just read an introduction to you that I created inside of My Most Trusted using the GPT connection. That's the power of the tool that Scott has brought to market. And for all those of you who've been with me for a while, you hear these introductions every week. Scott, tell us about your journey. Tell us your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So there's many different aspects to that. And I don't want to bore people with yet another, ordinary story. So, I'll kind of get to the interesting bits. And I think in terms of the context of what you said about, there's a few interesting pieces to my story. And the first one is, I just don't fit with corporates. I don't fit in the big corporate mindset at all. And also, I don't fit into that synthesized quasi-corporate where they sort of try to create the kind of open innovation within corporates, which gives people the freedom to pretend to be entrepreneurs. I know that has been developed significantly over the last decade, and I'm a little bit out of touch with that. But anything to do with big corporates, I just struggle with. In my opinion, you plant a tree grows to a certain size. That's it. It doesn't grow 10 times bigger, 20 times bigger. It grows to a certain size, and then it develops other little trees around it, and they little grow, and then you get a forest. You don't get one tree that somehow starts taking over the whole forest. If you do, that's one of those strangling vines that creeps in there. So I don't believe in the concept of a corporation. So let's start with that disruption right there. A big corporation, I should say. I really believe that we should have very decentralized, distributed, individual small businesses that communicate at a very high frequency and a very high level. And if we can get that right, then we can disrupt not just the business world, but the planet itself.
So let's play with that for a little bit, because I know that there's more, but I love the analogy with the trees and the forest. We get our business insights from the Fortune 500 corporations, right? They share all of these data and all of these data points. Absolutely. So for those of you who are listening, Scott's gagging, giving me a gagging face on video. But we get all of these insights from those places because they have the connection to media, right? And they can get a message out and people pretend to be listening. I have, over the last several years, really wanted to tune out those messages because I believe that they're outmoded, they're outdated, and they're killing business. And they also only represent less than 5% of businesses in the world. They may be the biggest, but they actually are not the most influential for our economy. And so I love that the analogy of the trees in the forest, because it is all of the little trees coming up that can create the momentum for real change. So from a mindset perspective, I love where you're coming from, but tell us a little bit more about what that means to what you're building and creating.
I've always been an entrepreneur, and I'll interweave my story because you asked me about the story in there. So because I was never into, big corporates, that I've always been an entrepreneur, and, I failed my way to kind of semi-success. And I say semi-success, depends on how you define success. I've had an incredible life, an incredible lifestyle as a result of, not having a 9 to 5, 9 to 6 what is it now, 8 to 7, if you really want to crack it in the world. I don't have an MBA. I have a degree, but I don't have a postgraduate. And I have huge respect for those people that do. And I'm not disrespecting anyone. And I'll tell you why. I disrespect the corporate. Well, I respect the big corporate idea, but I don't approve of it. But I have huge respect for individuals. Because Lisa, it's not, corporations add zero value to this world. They're a piece of paper without a body, without a soul to be damned and without a body to be kicked. It's the people that build the bridges. It's the people that create the technology, the amazing pharmaceutical, the amazing healing products in the world that we have today, the amazing psychological advances, the amazing physical advantages in sport. All these things that we have today, they were created by people. It's people that have done that, right? AI was created by people. So we have to remember that it's people that are the essence of our planet. And by doing anything that subverts the human soul and the human psyche, by pushing them down and overshadowing them with this corporate mentality, that for me is not where the future of the world needs to become. So my story is about just really being an individual, that one little tree, that one little seed trying to grow as a sapling, overshadowed by these huge corporations in their shade, trying to find my little patch of sun. That's my story.
And I love that you come from having no corporate background and experience, because in my journey, right, I started in that space and had my level of frustration that took me into being an entrepreneur. And at this point in time, I consider myself wholly unemployable by anybody, right? Totally not even something that could be successful in any way, shape, or form. So through this, Scott, your marketing experience and building the things that you've built, what is driving you with My Most Trusted in particular? What is it that you're building, and why does it matter to our society? Because it is bigger than just our businesses.
Lisa, in my opinion, we live in a world that's fake. Not entirely fake, but there's fake news, there is fake people. The young people of today, I mean, filters with your photographs on your phone are fake. I know, because I know the people that make these software systems and build these tools. They just create fake profiles on LinkedIn, fake profiles on Facebook, all over social media. I went today to look for World Cup rugby finals tickets on Facebook, and I went to a group, and this was about 2 hours ago. And I went and I said, I want South Africa's in the World Cup final. Yes, I want to see if anyone's selling their ticket. So there's a whole Facebook group with 2,000 members of World Cup rugby tickets, right? And I can see those people saying, I've got a ticket to sell, I've got a ticket to sell, I've got a ticket to sell. I can see that they're fake profiles. They're trying to create scams in the back end. Now, if they are so good though, many of them are so good, and it's very difficult to tell the difference. So I'm in a situation right now where I'm still able to see the difference between a fake profile and a genuine one, but I am 6 months away where not even an expert is going to be able to tell the difference. So what does this mean, Lisa? So you asked me the question, why do I do what I do? And the answer to that is we are in huge trouble with regards to the level of fakeness and automation, that we are not going to recognize one human from another in terms of your discussions and conversations on social media. That's why I do what I do. And I know what is here now, and I know what is coming. And what is coming is a situation where you're not going to tell the difference, so much so that somebody's going to come to you on social media. They're going to reach out to you, Lisa. They're going to say, Lisa, I'm really interested in what you do. I want you to please sit with me. I'm an owner of a biotech company. I'm looking to make an exit in about 3 years' time. I want to sit with you. I've watched your videos. I've read them. I've read your articles. You are exactly the kind of person that I think should coach me to take me to the next level and to help me, get out of this mundane. It's read your profile. It knows what you do. It's looked at your videos. It's created a perfect introduction to meet you. I call it intelligent spam. And it's tricked you into thinking it wants your product or service. You then start chatting. It creates a conversation. It starts asking you questions about you, your business, starts getting personal. and it's just harvesting data so that it can ultimately spin it back to you, flip it over, and start selling you stuff and start spamming you and doing that. This is how good these systems are, Lisa. And I hope people can truly understand that you can't stick your head in the sand about this any longer. It's already happening. It's already real. So you asked me the question, Lisa, why do I do what I do with My Most Trusted? Why am I creating a community of real people doing real things in business? That is the primary reason.
And the connection with real people right today is probably more relevant than it would have been 5 years ago, right? We were all disconnected legitimately from face-to-face interaction for so long that the timing and the ability to start doing this, and I'm doing air quotes around post-pandemic because, will it rear its head again? Who knows? Or what is the next thing? But we need these personal connections. Right. That's how we partner. That's how we joint venture. That's how we lift and grow together. Right. No one individual entrepreneur can achieve everything that they want in isolation. That's an outmoded idea that 14 years ago, when I started my business, everybody challenged the thinking of going on your own because you're now in competition with everybody you've ever done business with before, yada, 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 yada. And I didn't understand that perspective, but it was kind of real. Today, there's strength in numbers. The community that you're creating, while you and I might do something that is very similar, it is not identical and it is not necessarily directly competitive. It's complementary. And there's strength in that because now there's two going to market to help solve problems for potential clients, or 10 or 20, as that community grows. So creating those real life interactions with your community, is that really the driving force for you, and that's what's going to create change?
You've explained it well. You've articulated it very well. So once now you understand the why that I do what we do, because we're in this fake world. We need a business world. Well, what's next? Well, business people need to really have a mindset of win-win partnerships, synergies. Don't keep your client base all to yourself. Right? No one's going to actually steal your client base from you. They can't, because you own the relationship. So stop. We need to get away from this skeptical, mindset where we've got to kind of cling to what we have, even though I totally understand it. And people like you, Lisa, understand it in more than one way. You understand it's because you're a business owner, but you also understand the brain and the psychology of the process as well. There's some other great people that you and I both know, people like Leanne Ellish, if I can mention her. She understands the psychology out of it. And there's a real way the brain functions aspect to the way that we are naturally tuned to do business with each other, to partner. 9/11 is a classic example of that. I know I'm going back a long way into the past right now, and COVID seems like a decade ago, but with 9/11, there was this kind of idea that when 9/11 hit, there would be looting in the streets, and people would be against each other, and there would be this huge infighting. Actually, when a crisis happens, and there's been many papers written about this, when a crisis happens, everybody comes together. They came together, they worked together, they lifted rocks together, they moved rubble together. This is what people do. They save lives together. And we are having that inner psychological drive to help each other is being eroded away by a rather kind of sad and lonely synthesized version of reality that we are being fed, and that we are consciously and deliberately buying into and accepting. And what we're trying to do here is create a business world. I can't change the whole world, but I can get a group of people in business to think differently and maintain that psychology of let's do this together. Let's help each other genuinely.
And that genuinely, right, is the critical success factor in that, because this is very authentic. It is business owners being very vulnerable and open and learning each other's businesses, right? We are learning a lot about what everybody around us does in order to look for those partnerships and look for those opportunities to do referrals and all of those other things. It sounds wonderful, right? I get it. I am literally bought in on the idea, but it can't be without challenges and roadblocks and obstacles. What are some of those challenges that you're facing, and how have you tackled them?
Well, there's the first obstacle that you are faced with, and I think this is going to be quite general now, and I think a lot of people who are listening to this as business owners will have felt this before. It's the bright, shiny thing syndrome, which is, some people call it the early adopter syndrome, etc. But what early adopter syndrome doesn't explain, but the idea of bright, shiny thing does, is that early adopters will jump onto something. But what it doesn't tell you is bright, shiny thing syndrome is they love the bright, shiny thing and they buy into it, and then they bored of it very quickly and they move on. So what you end up with is you end up with a lot of like intense excitement and buy-in, and then a drop-off. So the survival of that drop-off is the difference between a successful business and a failure, because that drop-off can sink a business. But once you get that drop-off and you are left with an extraordinary group of people that do buy into this, you consolidate and you work with them, and then you take them to the next level and you work with that group. So for those of you listening to this right now, the obstacle that you are going to face, and you might have already faced it already, is that initial wave, amazement, excitement, and then this like plummet. It drops off. And Gallup does a really interesting curve of this. They talk about the hype cycle. It's not quite the same, but it's very similar. And the hype cycle shows that you get this incredible hype at the beginning of the curve, like AI, and AI is up that curve right now. And then you get to what's called the trough of disillusionment, which is the cliff of something falls into the trough of disillusionment. And then it comes back up into what's called the plateau of productivity. And that's where things start working. And we're seeing, for example, blockchain at the moment. Blockchain went through hype cycle and then it crashed, and now it's starting to move into what's called the plateau of productivity. The internet went through the same thing, and your business is a microcosm of that same thing. So what happens with every new idea is you are going to, there's no way around it. You're going to hit that hype cycle, and you're going to get into the trough of disillusionment. That's your primary obstacle. You need to be prepared for what happens when you get there.
Absolutely. And one of the things with that is that happens with every new product and every new service. So your business may be 20 years old, but you're still going to go through this cycle as you bring new things to market. And as an entrepreneur, that can be soul draining. But we're learning how to work through the trough of disillusionment is really an entrepreneur's secret power, or secret superpower.
Beautifully put, Lisa. There it is. It's handling that, and a lot of your strategic executables in business. The business coaches will tell you all of this. If you actually put them together, that's what they teach. How to handle that trough of disillusionment. You can try to minimize it, but you can't avoid it. It's going to happen. And if you really look at a lot of the business coaching, I'm sure you'll see this. If you put it, you'll see that's what it is. And you can pick some interesting examples and insights around that. In terms of your pricing model, for example, how you're going to handle your pricing model. Now, if you handle your pricing model with a mental where your mindset is in a hype cycle, then you're going to have a problem. If you put your pricing when you're trough of disillusionment, you're going to underprice yourself because you're desperate. So even pricing fits in the same way. So where is that mindset? And that's where you're smiling. I can see that. You can see where we're going with this. So that's the obstacle. So somehow those obstacles are going to fall into those categories. And wow, man, it's not easy. Hey, it's really not easy.
So do you have a story, a version of this experience that you have gone through and worked through that you can share, or do you want me to move on to the next topic?
Oh no, I can absolutely. Okay, so we launched My Most Trusted, which as you know is although it's a technology wise, it's a Chrome extension. It's an authentic where real people come together. So you take your people you genuinely know out of your LinkedIn connections, of which you have thousands, of which most of which you don't know. You separate them. You take those that you know and trust, and you put them into a separate group, which is your own private network within My Most Trusted. And that allows you to mingle and communicate with other people who have done the same. And that allows you to start creating referrals. It means it's a much stronger database. And as long as you have the authentic, genuine desire not to hard sell somebody and not to spam, you'll get wonderful referrals and meet some incredible people that you wouldn't normally get in front of. So that's what my most trusted is about. So what happened to us though is bright shiny thing. We had an amazing start. So I think we hit 1,500 users relatively quickly. My connections, I've had large databases, boom. And then what happened is it just flattened out. A lot of those users just turned off. There wasn't enough sticking to them. And this was obviously an issue. They weren't using it and So what do we do as a business? Do we give up? Right? But we had I would estimate after, let's say if we had 1,000, in our first 1,000 users we got, I would say 50 of them, that's all, actually were reasonable users of the product. They kind of got it and liked it and saw where we were going with this. So the other 950 were all bright, shiny thing. They all came in, and then left. So what do we do as a business? Do we give up? Or do we take those 50 people? Do we work with them, understand them, and really get to see what they love about that and start working with them? And that's what we started doing. We started working them. And then we got to 3,000 and then to 4,000. So we managed to do it, but we're still in that same problem with the pricing model, because now we need to work out how to make money from it. So I don't want to go into too much detail about that now, but you said it earlier, Lisa, the problem keeps repeating itself in a different way as you grow, as new products and services are launched or new iterations of the product were launched. But that's what happened. So you as a business owner have got to decide, you had 30 clients when you first started, or you had 5 clients when you started really quickly. You had a really good, successful first couple of months of your business, because if you did it cleverly, you would have jumped across with existing clients already and had a good income. Then that drops and you lose 1 or 2 key clients or 3 clients or however many you've got. How do you handle that?
And that is, right, the magic question for every entrepreneur and every business owner, right? How do you create recurring revenue? How do you ensure that the peaks and the valleys are normalized as much as they possibly can? Because you're always going to have upswings and you're always going to have little downturns. But how do you diversify your offerings so that you have that happy middle of the road, and so the downs don't hurt as much? The upswings are always fun. Let's just own it, right? Those are great, but we want to minimize on the other side. Scott, as you're still building, right? My most trusted is a work in progress. And what is on the horizon in the future? What are you seeing and looking for your clients, your community? What's next?
Focusing very much on our partners and those I love business networking groups. So we support business networking groups. So we don't want to be a competitor to a business networking group. You know, we met you, I think, Lisa, through Leadership Global, if I'm not mistaken, for example, and we work with Leadership as well as many other business networks. So what's on the horizon is we want to support those groups, whether it's your tiny little group in your hometown, you know, your little business networking group where 8 of you get together for coffee every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. We want to support you. Whether it's a huge international group, we want to support you. We want to support people that are willing to take the time and the effort to get face-to-face, or whether it's virtual on Zoom with real people looking for those referrals. That's the future. We want to support those. The outcome is better quality and more great referrals. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And I'll tell you why, Lisa. One thing that I know about business is that the people that you know in business, if you take your contact list, they will make sure that you never starve to death. And every business owner needs to know this and take comfort in this. You will not starve to death. Your business, the business people around you, will always look after you. So if things are really bad, they will look after you. Whether it's there could be family, friends, business colleagues, whatever. You are not going to starve. If you're down, your mates will help you out. Very Australian kind of as well, very philosophy. I'm just using Australia because I grew up there. Same all over the world. So you need to know that. So your circle of people around you will stop you from starving. However, it is the people they know, the much bigger circle around them, they will make you successful. To get to that next outer circle. You have to really look after your inner circle. If you look after your inner circle and really build those relationships, they will introduce you to the outer circle, and they're going to make you very, very successful. But you can't do it unless you really look after your inner circle. That's the premise of what we do from a strategic perspective, Lisa. That's what My Most Trusted is about. Build your own inner circle so you can look after your inner circle so they can introduce you to your outer circle.
Scott, in this conversation, you have shared so much wisdom with the audience today, starting with, right, just the need for human connection and the authenticity that comes from building relationships with real people with the intent of helping, I'll use the phrase co-elevate, right? We support each other, we build partnerships, we build referral networks, and we help each other grow and scale and survive so that we can all thrive. The last piece that you just shared with us, right? Taking care of that inner circle that surrounds us, that supports us, that keeps us from starving, is the important success criteria to having access to the larger network around them that gives us the ability for our businesses to grow and scale. This is so important, regardless of what industry you're in, regardless of what it is that you're doing, what your product or service is. Everything begins and ends with our relationships with people. Even though the process is enabled by technology, right? We need our tech to get us there, but it's the one-to-one interaction with another living, breathing human being that makes the actual difference. Scott, if our listeners or viewers are interested in finding you, what's the easiest and fastest way for them to get to you?
Well, obviously through the website, which is mymosttrusted.net, but LinkedIn, as you can imagine, I'm on LinkedIn is probably the best way. So just search Scott Cundill and you'll find me. And I'm always open. I have meetings all the time. Always, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. You know, we here to help, and that's it. And I think that's one of the essence. I know a lot of people say that, and a lot of people do it. A lot of people don't really have a chance to execute on it because they're too busy or don't have the technology platform or the infrastructure. So I think that's a good way to end off, Lisa. We want to provide the infrastructure to your listeners to be able to give of themselves and receive of themselves. In other words, I want them to be able to give referrals and receive referrals. It's such a win-win. So if you want to help other people, but you don't feel that you're in a position to do it because you don't have the infrastructure, we will provide the infrastructure for you to be able to help other people. I think that kind of sums it up nicely.
It does, and it brings it all together, right? In my world, I talk often about we need to have the right people doing the right work, and we enable with technology. This is exactly that in real time, and making those human connections that are the things that are going to be the differentiators for each of us as business owners. Scott, thank you so much for your time and your insight and sharing everything that you did with the audience today. And for those of you watching or listening, remember, don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Every single week, one lucky listener that posts a review on iTunes will win the grand prize drawing, a $15,000 private VIP day with Lisa Levy. And be sure to head over to disruptandinnovate.com and get your free copy of Lisa's gift. And join us on our next episode.